Barbershop conversation, guys. Feel free to hit the subscribe button. So let's talk about Colin Kaepernick and him sitting down for the national anthem. Now, let's just be clear. Courage awards cowards. And what I mean by that is people who live life with their tail tucked in between their legs, afraid of having courage, living life in fear. They're the first ones to speak up when it comes to social issues, being conscientious of things that's going on. And they're like the silent haters of the world. You know, cowards become confident when they feel they're speaking up for the masses. You know what I mean? And what I believe Colin Kaepernick, well, let me preface this. And every time I say something in this video, remind you, Muhammad Ali was the most recognizable, most polarized man in America / black man in America. And when he passed, he was the most revered man in America. You know, I'm a paraphrase a Martin Luther King quote. Silence is a sin. You know, what I believe Colin Kaepernick is doing is, again, using his platform, as so many people are saying, but what he did is he took a courageous stance, like the 1968 Olympics when Carlos got his fists up. That is one of the most probably retweeted, most sold pictures of the 20th century. You know what I mean? And let's be clear, being an American is great, but it's also overrated. You know what I mean? We live in a country that takes 30%, minimum 30% of what we make. And you say, well, I'm only in the, let's say 40%. 40% will be a safe number. Well, some people say, no, I get tax deductible, but every time you go to the store, you pay taxes. At the end of the year, you pay taxes on your salary. So in a sense, you're being double taxed. You guys understand what I'm saying? We live in 70% of us are a paycheck away from being on Skid Row or wherever, or homeless. And what Colin Kaepernick is doing is taking a stance on the injustices, the inequality that we have in society. He's not taking a stance against military. And if you ask many military personnel that come back home, especially of color, they're standing in line at the vet waiting for service. You know, post-traumatic stress disorder runs rampant upon people who serve time in the military. I use serve time on purpose. You know what I mean? I salute the people who serve in our 5 branches of military. Sometimes we forget the Coast Guard, but I don't salute the system in which created it. You know what I mean? How the hell are we fighting for peace? Right? Sort of like a true lie, like an oxymoron, right? Like you fight for peace. So at the end of the day, Colin Kaepernick was uberly courageous. The NFL is the most watched TV drama on TV. It is, nothing can compete with NFL. If you put the Olympics aside, the NFL would win. If you put whatever you want to put against NFL, it will fail. It is the most watched TV program in America. It will be #1 for the next 17 weeks, or excuse me, up until Super Bowl Sunday in February. Nothing competes against the NFL. It has everything we need. It has the violence. It has the victor. It has the spoiler. It has the loser. It has everything. So, but let's be clear. Colin Kaepernick is somebody's hero. And for that, he needs to be applauded. And keep in mind, he did something that Chris Paul had a chance to do when Donald Sterling spoke up against Magic Johnson and said those insidious comments. He did something LeBron James could have done. He's done something that many athletes had a chance to do, but they failed to do. And people say, well, he's mixed. It doesn't matter what race you are. It matters in terms of galvanizing the spirit a little bit faster. But if you have the courage to stand up, whether you're white, black, Asian, Latino, at the end of the day, it's the same. You know, there had to be in Martin Luther King marches, it had to be more as many white people as there were black people, right? Just on sheer numbers, right? You get what I'm saying? Or in SNCC, or in it had to be, because if you want to move, you need masses, and blacks are not the masses in America. We make up 12% of America, give or take, depending on what poll you're looking at. But I salute you, Kaepernick, and people are saying you need to be respectful of the flag. Well, let me tell you what the flag means. Well, first, let me tell you about my trip to South Korea. I was fortunate enough. I was in Japan. I was working in Japan, and I had a couple of days. So I said, let me just hop on a plane and go to South Korea, because I was a history major. So I am obsessed with history and the DMZ areas, demilitarized zone areas, and which America still occupies, by the way. You have to show your passport. So I went to the demilitarized zone of South Korea, North Korea. And what that really is like, I don't know how many kilometers it is, but it's probably 3 kilometers that separates North Korea from South Korea, right? And they have something called the Dorisan Station, which is a train that, quote unquote, will someday you'll be able to catch to go to North Korea. Now, fast forward. Now they have this room where you can go in, where you can be at in North Korea. It's you guys might have seen it on TV, but feel free to Google it. It's where you have North Korea commanders and everyone else on one side, and you have South Korea on the other side. You know, and that's where they meet and discuss policies, etc., etc. But the point I'm getting to is, every day in North Korea, well, first of all, North Korea has the biggest flag ever created in the world. And that's intentional. It's called propaganda. And they have loudspeakers where you have to say what is the national anthem or their Pledge of Allegiance every morning. And we know about the conditions that North Koreans live in. So let's be clear. And there's unmarked trucks that goes to North Korea every day from South Korea. The military told me that because I was American, so I asked a million questions, because I feel comfortable speaking English, because America still occupies the DMZ area. So I was just asking questions. I was like, man, so how do they? And he was just telling me, you know, I don't know if he told me in confidence, or this was probably like 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago. And, but it's all propaganda. We give those words power. We give that flag power. You understand what I'm saying? Just like if we give Michael Jordan power. Michael Jordan should have did this in 1984. What Colin Kaepernick is doing, Michael Jordan should have done it. Magic Johnson should have done it. Joe Montana should have done it. But they didn't do it. So Colin Kaepernick, you've done something that one other person that I've known has done it. Chris Jackson, who was the third pick in the draft. He was on his way to a Hall of Fame career. And the NBA blackballed him because he was Muslim, and his faith convicted him, and he didn't put his right hand over his heart. He prayed during the national anthem. He changed his name to Maruk Abdul. I don't want to mispronounce his name, but Chris Jackson. He played with Shaquille O'Neal in college, and he had the best pull-up jump shot in the game that year, college or pro. And if I ever get a chance to interview Shaq sometime soon, I'll ask him about Chris Jackson, and I'll definitely ask him about NBA blackballing him, and sort of like how Michael Jordan blackballed Craig Hodges. You know what I mean? How when Craig Hodges gave that letter to the president in his African attire, he had an African hat on, I believe. The NBA blackballed Craig Hodges. Michael Jordan didn't stand up for him. Craig Hodges is from Chicago and was fortunate enough to play for his home city team. And he was actually hoping that Michael Jordan would have his back, and he didn't. So, I mean, for all it's worth, I have Colin Kaepernick's back, but we need to get off his back and stop associating with you disrespecting the flag. I don't put my right hand over my heart. I don't sing the national anthem. If something is going on in the world, sometimes it may move me. The Marvin Gaye national anthem, the Ray Charles national anthem, those move me quite a bit. You know what I mean? But it is the home of the brave, the land of the free. You know what I mean? And we have the right to freedom of expression, freedom of speech. And he's exercising his right. And I pray that now I'm actually rooting for Colin Kaepernick. I wasn't rooting for him at first because I'm an NFC guy and I'm a Giants fan. And 49ers are our West Coast rival, you know, especially in the 80s and 90s. Joe Montana versus Phil Simms and Jeff Hostetler. But I salute you, man. And people need to stop associating the flag with power. You know, it's a social programming tool. If you don't believe me, walk into any kindergarten. How the hell do kindergartners know to respect the flag? Because they're taught every day for 180 times. 180 times a year, they have to stand up, put their right hand over your heart, ready, begin. It's a social programming tool. You know what I mean? To force you to believe in this capitalist society. America is a business. And if you don't believe that, look at your paycheck. You pay taxes on the money you make, and you pay taxes every time you go grocery shopping. And when you go outside, you have, when you cut your TV on, there's so many things going on in America that needs to be fixed and can easily be fixed. You know, like I always said, people who make minimum wage should start a union and shut down America. You know, if maybe I'll do a video on this because they have no idea how much power they have. You know, minimum wage employees will literally shut down America. But we've been fooled and bamboozled, you know, to believe that, oh, we got to work to create create greater capital. But when in actuality, if they went on strike, they can get a $3 raise, $4 raise like that. Because America cannot function without bottom dwellers. It began with slavery and now it's called minimum wage. So there's so many ways I can go with this, but I don't want to keep you guys for too long because then I become rhetorical. Maybe I'll do a part 2 to this during the NFL season. But barbershop conversation, feel free to hit the subscribe button. But we got to start looking at the foundation of things. Don't look at where things are now. Like the problems, like for example, like people, like men and women always talk about their problems in relationships, why you're single. Well, talk about the foundation of you. Why are you having those problems? You know, I brought that up because that's a common conversation we have between strangers and friends. Why am I not making enough money? I should say, why are we not making enough money? You know what I mean? So get to the root cause. You know what I mean? I encourage you guys to read some Malcolm Gladwell books. You know, he's my favorite author from the New Yorker. He just has a ability to explain the unexplainable. So anyways, barbershop conversation. I salute you, Colin Kaepernick. I should do a part 2 to this video, and maybe I will. But enjoy your Monday. And before you be critical of Colin Kaepernick and say he's being disrespectful, look at your life. Look at maybe some of your friends that are incarcerated. Look at some of just simple things like potholes in your neighborhood, or the simple things like you not having access to Wi-Fi, you not having access, your children not having access to a nutritious lunch at school. You know, these are things that needs to be addressed. Or Christopher Columbus is a hero. If that doesn't excite rage in you, then you might you are a coward. You know, I mean, there's no way in hell when my child gets to school that his teachers will tell him Christopher Columbus should be celebrated. It'll never happen in my life. Christopher Columbus is a rapist and a thief. So anyways, barbershop conversation.